Welcome to the B-Sides and Beers podcast.
Welcome to B-Sides and Beers, episode 98. Tonight we're talking Rob Zombie. What's going on, guys?
Hey, man. We're getting a little Halloween flavor.
Tis the season.
It's coming.
Tis the season. Let's do this October thing right.
Yes. The air is getting colder out there, and it's
crisp.
Yep.
I don't know about you guys, but today was the day. It changed today.
Yep. Felt like it.
It was just like switch was flipped.
Yep. Yeah, totally. It's crazy how it changes so quick, but it's here.
Shorts are going away as of like next week, I think. So
I don't know if I can do it, man.
Switch over the whole closet.
Mm-hmm.
It's time. Yeah, we're talking White Zombie too, right? We're talking
all things Rob Zombie.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
All the things.
I was like, oh no, I didn't do my homework properly. This is a band that I found from Dane, and I don't know where you found it from, and I'd like to ask you that part of that question because I just was introduced to Le Sexorcisto, The Sexorcist. That was the first album that I had heard and saw, and it was just like, it seemed so dangerous at the time. Like it was just so like on the edge, it felt like, and like something that you shouldn't maybe be listening to, but like you're really glad that you are, kind of thing, right? But anyways, so I don't know where the origin of that came from, but this is where I found this band was through you. So thank you for that. But where did you find it?
It was either my cousin or Much Music, and it was probably my cousin, and then eventually they made their way onto Much Music.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were, speaking of Halloween, they were pure Halloween. They got like a pass on the whole devil music thing, probably because it was more or less like a cartoonish representation of almost like a bad guy, like Cobra and G.I. Joe. They weren't serious. You could tell they weren't serious, but visually stunning and interesting and different. And the music was awesome. The music was fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. And the artwork is also something that, like, you know, we'll talk about that too, I'm sure, but that drew me in as well, right? And in the colors, it was just like something like I had never seen before too. And then you put it on and it's like the CD itself. I still remember the CD itself, you know, like the way it looks. But but had you guys heard anything before that? Like, had you been listening? Anybody listening pre?
No.
1992.
That was one of those. That was one of those projects that, going back to their earlier stuff, you can tell there was a huge shift from 89 to 92. So all that other stuff you could not find. Like it was on bootlegs, and it was on, you know, if you could find a 45 or a ripped cassette or something like that. So it wasn't even on the radar. So, you know, so when Devil's Music Volume 1 came out, it was like there was nothing else like it at all. And I think my first memory of it would probably be Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, like they loved them.
Yeah.
Right? Like they loved White Zombie, and it was like the Beavis and Butthead bump. It's the Yankovic bump, right? Like it's another one of those ones that they think they suck or they think they're awesome, dictates how that goes, right? And it's crazy how much power they had on that. And whatever episode on that, you guys can rewind back to that episode and listen to that one. But yeah, no, for sure. And they were a huge part of it.
Oh, totally. And hearing the interviews going back where they're talking about prior to that Beavis and Butthead episode coming out, they were selling like 5,000 copies here and there. And then the week after that show came out, they were selling hundreds of thousands of copies. It was just, it blew up literally overnight, like within a week. So just unreal.
It was really interesting. Is almost like it resonated immediately with the youth.
Mm-hmm.
I think with like the visual, like the sort of satanic angle that they were going for. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered this because, like, when you listen to the lyrics, it was just a bunch of nonsense. I mean, it sounded cool.
Oh, it sounds awesome. Like,
yeah. Jesus lived his life in a cheap hotel on the edge of Route 66. He lived a dark and a twisted life, and he came right back just to do it again. Like, but besides that, the rest of it is nonsense, and I think that's how they got away with it. Like, this was mid 90s, so maybe just a little bit after the Tipper Gourd kind of thing. But there was still a lot of like hurt butts about like questionable material. Right. But I think if you like looked at the lyrics, you're like, Supercharger, Heaven, okay, this is fine.
Yep.
And they kind of flew under the radar. But as far as I was concerned, just like you said, Flip, they were dangerous. They were about Satan. Had all this imagery. If you look, there was a little upside down cross somewhere in the illustrations, and you're like, "Oh, that's really bad."
Yeah.
Well,
it was just it was great that way.
Well, it all came from a basis of late 70s sort of B movies and comic books and the old school monster movies like the Draculas and the Frankensteins and Wolfmans and whatnot. And it just it came together in such a cool package. And when you look at the art on that first album, all that art was done by Rob. So I mean, you've got a cool front man. The whole band has this aesthetic that just stands out for the time and even for now. Like it doesn't seem dated. It's still cool. And
it's true.
And the artwork that nobody else was doing, and it comes from that basis. And going back to, I thought it was funny that his folks were carnies, so it all kind of comes out of that where you've got these just weird sideshow folk, and it just goes from that. So.
Yeah, the grease paint and monkey brains.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It's funny. You're talking about the satanic, vibe and all this going on. But then you watch like, this Thunder Kiss 65 video, and he's like grooving and like dancing on stage and stuff. And you're like, well, this isn't so bad. Like this isn't so dangerous. Like this is pretty good, right? But it's just a different image that it was portrayed in the videos, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not really in Black Sunshine. Like it's just mostly, car going down the highway.
Yep. Yep.
And Iggy Pop. That was one of those things.
Well, it's funny because like he got in there, like they just asked him apparently, and he was a big fan of like the previous album. I'm like, did he know that like they changed their sound? And he like got on the album and he was like, you guys don't sound like you used to.
Yeah.
But change for the better, holy smokes. And I think, it's really funny. I was just watching, I don't know if it was Bizarre Fest or there's a festival they were doing in 95, and they're doing the Astro Creep 2000 material. And I'm sure no one's heard it before. So the crowd is just losing their minds. And the sound is like Jay's guitar is so incredibly heavy. And that's that shift you're talking about where their sound changed. Mm-hmm. I think, of course, I think they're notorious for having backing tracks, and like they usually gas out 5 minutes into the live stuff. But when you listen to the albums, like Jay's guitar is just so massively huge, and like you can't even date that tone. It's just, La Sexorcista was great, and you get into Astro Creep, and it's holy smokes.
Well,
it sounds like there's 5 guitars playing at once.
And that's so weird because the gear that he uses, the amp that he has, it's an old Randall amp.
Yeah.
And it's a solid state, and they're known for being really more compressed and kind of shrill and like no body to it. So those albums had layers upon layers upon layers. So,
and it's funny because like literally you watch like they're dropping the Astro Creep stuff and it sounds massive, and then they get into Thunder Kiss 65 and there's no backing tracks and it's just like there's only Jay.
Yeah,
you could tell there's a huge difference.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more going on too between Sexacisto and Astro Creep, where the first one it's more like this noise. It's basically a noise genre, and they take it from that to Astro Creep, where it's more of an industrial focused path, right?
It's Terry Date. Terry Date's the producer on Astro Creep, and Terry Date is like did all Limp Bizkit albums. He did like Adrenaline, Deftones, Cowboys from Hell, Vulgar Display, all that, right? So like, it kind of makes sense when you put all those kind of things together. On that, but yeah, and it was the other guy was Andy Wallace that did Le Sexorcisto, and he did like Engineered Rain and Blood, Seasons of the Abyss, produced that. Apparently, I didn't know this, but Kurt Cobain apparently contacted him because he thought the Nevermind mixes sounded weak, and he called this guy in, to bump this up. So, so these, lots of experience on these first two or on those albums, right? And like you were talking, Mike, about like the noise genre too. And if you listen to those, especially that first album, like it sounds like a Sonic Youth album.
Totally.
Yeah. Like, it's just like noise. And like, I don't know about you guys, but I hate Sonic Youth. Like I've never liked that band. Like I've given it a shot and it just is like, oh, shut it off. Like it just makes me anxious.
Yeah. And I only like one of their albums, and then the rest of it I don't care.
I don't mind them.
Oh man, they're irritating for me. It's one of those bands that it grades on me, and not many bands I can say that do that. Right?
Wow.
No,
there you go.
No, I'd take Def Leppard over Sonic Youth any day.
Oh man.
Oh hell yeah. I don't know what that says about us, but
I don't have too many like really hated bands, right? So it's just but Sonic Youth, oh man,
bunch of geeks.
Well, it just is noise. I know that's what it's supposed to be, but I'm not into it. I tried it. I'm good. We got to go back though too, and not go back, but talk about both albums and the samples that are on these albums.
Oh, crazy!
Yes, and like it blows my mind at first of all how they even got away with it in the first place, and I know that there's a lot that didn't make the cut, and apparently there's a like bootleg original cassette that's you can get your hands on that has all of the original samples that didn't get cut from the final cut. So anyways, but like when I looked them up, I mean, there's everything on there as you can imagine, right? Things from horror movies to Star Trek episodes to I think there's some porn stuff in there as well, like 70s stuff, right? Like it's just like it's crazy. And I mean, they told Geffen that they were going to do this, and there was really no rules back then, so they were like, go for it.
Yeah, it was very early on. Well, it's along the lines talking about Beastie Boys, where Paul's Boutique, with all the samples that they were able somehow to use, but that was before the lockdown on samples, right? So it was in that window of 89 to 92 where nobody really followed up on those things, I guess. Because you look at those albums, you look at anything hip hop prior to that, and it's all samples. And then after that, they had to change the game and be more creative and whatnot. So,
but that was really their signature, and they did it well. That's sort of what helped them transcend from this visual band into like sonically, you know what I mean? Like it sort of. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, it completed the picture, right? Like it put it, the whole put brought together. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, when I was younger, that there's no other band that was doing it that way. Of course there were. I mean, there was industrial bands, there was Ministry, Skinny Puppy, obviously more on that industrial side of things, but White Zombie really did it well. They gave you that, that really good mix of visual.
It was the package. It was the total package.
Yeah, that total package. And it's funny because we started this project, I guess, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And like I said, I'd never really heard a band that had done it that well until a week ago. I came across a band called Buzz Oven.
Okay.
And it's a sludge metal band from the, I just think they started in 90 and they went till about 98 or 99, took off 10 years and came back 2010. Real nasty, kind of sludgy metal, just in your face. But the samples, the same thing. They do it really, really well. Yeah. And I sort of see the sludge metal with White Zombie as well. It's really funny that like no one has really made that comparison.
Right.
But these two bands are, I mean, they would have done well on tour together.
Oh, yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that out there. But
yeah, and it's the groove too.
Yeah.
Right in there. It's that chug.
Takes them out of that thrash metal genre where you can't really completely define them as one thing. It's like graphic art mixed with mixed media and samples and metal chugs and double kicks.
Well, they
double kicks, but tasteful double kicks. Yeah. Throughout, right? Like the most tasteful double kicks, like on both albums, really. Like both of those drummers are awesome. And that I didn't know that first drummer,
Ivan.
Oh, sorry, not him. The second drummer, John Tempester. I can't remember his name. Sorry, man. He's been playing with the Cult. Yeah, he's been playing with the Cult since 06. Like, so he's done pretty good. But like, I kind of checked out the rest of the members, and like, Jay's not doing a lot.
No, he kind of quit everything.
Yeah, and like Sean's kind of not doing much either. She's got some design stuff, and I mean, obviously, we know the next phase of this podcast is maybe Rob Zombie because we're just going into it now. But he's obviously been busy.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when Rob decided to leave and do his solo thing, I mean, everybody else in the band were working on new material, and they're going back to Rob and saying, okay, we got these, we're working on this and that, and he's just not feeling it, and he's like, we're done. And then he starts working on Hellbilly Deluxe. And then
I heard he was working on Hillbilly Deluxe before that, and that was like caused like a rift.
It was the same time because they had that little break between 95 and what was it, 98 that one came out. Yeah, so really it's 3 years less if you count the touring and whatnot from Astro Creep. So
yeah, like it felt like a pretty smooth transition. Like there wasn't any time that like Rob Zombie went away. Like it was White Zombie, and then late 90s it was Rob Zombie, and then forever and ever after that, right? But and I don't. He would, from the sounds of it and what I read, nobody's interested in doing a reunion.
No,
like at all.
No.
I've heard he's kind of a nasty guy.
Really?
He's got like a rock star complex.
Oh, I've never seen that, and I've seen a lot of interviews with him, and he just seems like a straight up. Just a straight up dude that knows his shit, and he's passionate about what he does. And
totally.
He never seemed like a dick.
9 interviews out of 10 with King Buzzo.
From
Melvin's.
Yeah, no, I didn't. That one.
He slams Rob Zombie, and almost every interview he's like, "Oh yeah, that guy's such a douche."
But Buzzo slams everybody, so
fair enough.
He seems to just hate everyone. So
yeah, it's. I mean, what are you? I'm not a huge Rob Zombie solo stuff fan.
Okay.
Like I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it's maybe I didn't like Hillbilly Deluxe, and that kind of maybe set me off. And then I kind of came back a little bit later. But I just find that it has a lot of the same formula in every song that I listen to.
Yep, definitely. He found his formula and he built it that way, and he wrote it through. He did a bunch of different changes in between. I mean, when Hellbilly Deluxe came out, I was obsessed with that album, and front to back, I still love it today. You get into Sinister Urge. It's okay. It's along the same lines, but it's a little tamer. Educated Horses. That was a big diversion, and it's a hard listen for me because it's just too slow for what I personally think a Rob Zombie album should be. Like, it's just a little too chill. And a lot of it too goes from the metal horror genre to, it has, country, and it's got rockabilly, and it's got all these other different blends in that sometimes fit. And sometimes it feels like, okay, well, this can be a soundtrack to one of his movies, but I don't know if it should have been an album. So,
yeah.
And then everything he came out after that has been decent. Nothing that blows me away, but decent offerings. I mean, even his newest one, what is it? The Lunar Injection Kool-Aid Escape Conspiracy. It's cool. There's some cool tracks on it, man. So, but that's
Dane. What are your thoughts on Rob Zombie solo?
I just couldn't. I don't know. I think, like, yeah, he's got the formula down, and it's a bit predictable. But I mean, if I would give them a solid listen, I would probably find something good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I was really a big White Zombie fan when I was younger, and I just would like to keep it like that in my memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's just weird seeing him at 60 years old, like in the same outfit, and it's one of those things. I think his movies are great. I'm a huge fan of The Devil's Rejects.
Yes.
That was, I think, one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. To be, completely honest with you, I don't know what it was. It was something where a lot of his stuff is super campy, and that's what makes it great. Like, I'm a big fan of his, like his video work or whatever, his directing. Devil's Rejects was great. Even House of a Thousand Corpses, I thought was interesting.
Loved it.
Yeah.
His Halloween remakes were great.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to agree with that as well. As I prefer him as like a director. Then, I think he should, whatever. I mean, if he's having fun doing the music thing,
he's doing it all
the power to him.
He's able to do it all, which
it's
is
just
great.
not my cup of tea.
I would have thought you'd at least like Hellbilly Deluxe. I mean, it wasn't that big of a departure from.
No, it wasn't, but I don't know. I was so invested in the band, in Jay and Sean, and like that was when I heard that they weren't making another album after Astral Creep. Like, Astral Creep was so big. Yep. It was such an amazing album. I remember being, when did it come out? 93, 94, 93,
95.
Yeah. 95. And my dad was hanging out with his buddy, and they're just talking about, I don't know, Willie Nelson or something. I have no idea. And they're like, what kind of music do you listen to? And I was like, okay. And I put on Astral Creep, and I cranked it all the way.
Yeah.
And that album starts off with just the craziest sounds. It's like a train yard or something. There's a cow in there at some point, and then it's just, like it just blew my mind. And that compared to, his solo stuff, it just wasn't that next level that I was looking for. It was just kind of the same, maybe a little bit more
too refined, maybe
a bit. Yeah, there you go. Maybe a bit too radio friendly. And like, dude was on a trajectory to make millions of dollars. Yep. So I mean, all the power to him again.
Well, isn't the start of that album like the perhaps we should stop for the beginning? Perhaps we should stop for the beginning.
No, that's Les Exorcistes, though.
Is it?
Yeah.
No.
Is it? Hold on a second. Perhaps a better start at
You're
the
right.
beginning. Yeah, that's where the record, they like play the record backwards.
Yeah.
That's the six or
Yeah.
still, but like how did Astro Creep start again? It was like
That's it. I just listened to it right now on Astro
really?
Creep. Yeah, perhaps a bit of stuff from the beginning.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I just like it puts goosebumps on my arms. It's like
yeah. But I like that drumming on that album more. Yeah.
you do. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked him as a drummer, the stuff that he did. Like, it feels like the first guy could probably have pulled it off, but like he just seemed really suited for that. And that was like the double bass right at the beginning of that song, actually, right at the beginning of that the first song on there.
Yep.
It's awesome. Like, it kicks right in, right? And it's so good. Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember the CD on that one. I don't remember what the CD looked like. I just remember the Sex still had the green and all like the ornate on it, but I can't remember what Astro Creep had on it.
Psychedelic stuff. I think Astro Creep was more like it was like the band, but it was more like kind of black and white.
Yeah. I can't remember.
It wasn't as arty. It wasn't like Rob's art.
Yeah.
It was
spiders
and I think the
lines and weird drawings and
math and crazy.
They just added math.
Some there's definitely some math equations on the cover, but they look badass.
I think the fact too, back in the day, that there was a female bass player, or at least a female member of the band, was also a big
and she kicked
lure.
Ass.
Yeah.
Always loved the female bassist for sure.
Yeah. And I didn't know she was dating Rob.
Yeah. That was another reason why the band broke up. I mean, once they split, it's like, how hard are you going to work on being with your ex to make this go? Right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, Dan, you said like 60 and still wearing the same stuff. And it's funny because when he said like about reunion, he said, well, nobody like wants to come up and see like a 60-year-old white zombie and, doing all this and everything. And I'm like, well, that's what's happening kind of now, I guess. But like, it's fine. Like it's working.
He's always had the theatrics.
He's doing the songs.
Though. He's always had the theatrics, so he can put on the makeup and he can put on the costumes and he can have the big stage show. So even if you don't follow his entire career, it's still an entertaining show. And he puts extra. It's like money.
Alice Cooper kind of thing, right?
Very
like,
much so.
Like I don't think it's weird that Alice Cooper still does it.
Yeah.
Like
no. I just honestly, I think like the band like White Zombie was really interesting to watch. Like Jay and Sean as well, they were great. Whoever was on the drums at the time, but watching just Rob Zombie gas out after 5 minutes, and I don't know the rest of the dudes. It just looks like Rob Zombie 2, 3, and 4. Is But visually, the shows look amazing. It's less of his art and more kind of like video kind of mashups of a whole bunch of different stuff. And
it's old sci-fi, old monster movies, old grindhouse, old, horror comics, all the Tales from the Crypt stuff and that he brought in, and it's still fascinating to me. And I just love it. So.
Yeah, and it's got like we said at the beginning of this episode, like a very Halloween theme that fits in, right?
Yep.
With
it's been his thing since the start. Even going back to the first couple of albums there, it's the aesthetic was there back in 1989 and 87 and 88 and
it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah. No, it's been consistent. Absolutely. Is he like on? Does he sing on other albums? Like, does he do that or like?
Not
have you guys heard
really.
Of that?
He did well for soundtracks and stuff. He's done things here and there, but that's
like he hasn't sung for another like band or like anything like that.
Not
like
really. Yeah, well, he's done sort of
Zombie.
featuring in a few little places, and he had a side project that I think it was just a 1-song thing. For some sort of movie soundtrack. What was it called? LA Rats. But yeah, it was basically like 1 song they did. Yeah.
Not much, eh?
Not much. Yeah. No.
There was, I mean, what was it called? I'm just trying to find it here. I had the CD, The Electric Head Part 1.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he did a lot of compilations.
Remix stuff.
Was it all remixes?
Most of that stuff was remixes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like Songs to Strip By or whatever it was called. That was all, that was all of the, every song was a remix.
It's a super swinging, sexy sounds too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a little bit of I wanted another White Zombie album, and it was like another kind of.
It was well done. It was very well done.
It was.
But it all depends on what you were looking for in that next section.
Yeah. So there was like some collaborations and crossovers and things like that.
Oh, was there? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with what's it called? Sexy songs to swing with.
Super sexy swinging sounds.
That Electric Head Part 1. But it wasn't White Zombie and
just not quite the same. And gear wise, what's going on there gear wise for guitar? Like, is there anything crazy and wild?
Like I said, it was basically Randall amps. It was the solid states, just like Dimebag, basically the same amps they were using from the start. He had his Ibanez Iceman.
The Ice, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I fell in love with that guitar, and
I looked that up.
I hated it as a Kiss guitar. I hated it because it was a Paul Stanley guitar. It's like, oh, that's lame.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and then as soon as I saw that in White Zombie, it changed my mind, and I've wanted one ever since. And they're just so damn cool.
Have you looked at them recently? They're just like they look ergonomically incorrect. Like they look really uncomfortable to like sit down and
play.
They're
very comfortable to play. But the one I've played some, the earlier ones are really nice, and then you get into because they stopped making it for a while. They made it for a couple of years, and then they just discontinued the whole line. And then, you fast forward 8 or 10 years and they bring it back again. And when they bring it back again, and it's not the made in Japan ones, it's the made in Korea and Indonesia and all that. The ones that I've played that are the lower entry level ones are probably the heaviest guitars I've ever played, weight wise. Like they just, and my Les Paul is, I've got that Les Paul Custom that's gotta be 20 pounds. It's got, or if not more, like it's heavy. And then I picked up, these other Iceman, and it's like, how is this 40 pounds or whatever it is? Like, it just feels like it would be hard to play a show for more than, 30 minutes and then your back is destroyed. But they look amazing. And then you look at who else used those? What's his name from System of a Down? Had one for the longest time. Yeah. And I mean, he's the only other guy that I've seen using those. So
yeah. And then he was using Dean's during Les Exorcisto.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, I remember because I had a guitar magazine at the time, and you could win. That was the first I heard of that type of guitar, and I sent away, and I never won it. But
bastards.
Yeah, it wasn't like a Dimebag Dean. It was like a weird kind of offset looking, same headstock, but like
more like the Explorer style body than the sort of X shape.
Not even Explorer, more rounded off. It's a interesting looking guitar. I'm not sure like what the model is, but it was a Dean something or other.
Okay.
And when you watch live shows, he changes. When he goes from like Acid Creep to older stuff, he'll like put the Dean on, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Is Dean do they have V-neck? on the Dean, or is that, am I just thinking of the logo?
Yeah, the headstock has that,
Yeah.
whoosh, whoosh, that kind of
Yeah,
double horn,
Oversized, yeah.
yeah, looking thing.
Yeah, the Iceman is pretty sweet, and the like white zombie Iceman is awesome.
Yeah, the sparkly green with the stars that he put on it is like, that is amazing.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it was those two things and a tube screamer and go.
Yeah,
here we go with the tube screamer again, right? It's the Dave Mustaine, it's the 1994, it's the common thread through all these episodes, right?
Keep it
it's
simple.
the tube screamer.
that's right, Dave Mustaine.
Yeah. It's the common, it's the glue that holds it all together.
Yeah, and with bassist Sean, or was it? Yeah,
Sean Yasalt?
Yeah. So she, was it Ibanez or was it? I keep thinking she had Rickenbacker for a while, but
I think it was an Ibanez, and then she had some weird casket shaped
okay, yeah.
bass that I'm not really sure what that was, which was also really cool. But
a Schecter.
Was it? Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay,
that makes sense. Yeah.
But I have to say, like, we were sort of talking about Kiss for a second there, and like, I hate Kiss through and through. I hate Kiss, but you gotta give them some props on how many bands they inspired, how many awesome bands. And I just don't get it. I mean, like, I guess it's like your guitar player is guitar player or whatever. Your
it's
your glam band's glam band,
something like that. Yeah.
They were, I mean, they were entertaining in concert, but it's the only way to like listen to them, right? Like, and see them and like do all the whole shtick.
The only album I can ever listen to theirs is Kiss Alive. The rest of it,
the first one,
the very first Kiss Alive. Well, technically it was their second album because their first one came out and no one cared, so they put out a live album and then everyone cared because it was a different vibe. So, I mean, that's the album that saved their careers. But, that's the only one I can do. But when you look, I mean, they influenced, Dimebag. They've got, Anthrax. They've got like all these cats just loved them.
Yeah,
it's so weird. But
I don't get that either. And like, even like you think of the stuff that they were doing in the 80s too, right? Like, ballads.
You mean the no makeup?
No, no makeup.
So
like permed hair. Like, it just was like that was inspiring too, right?
Yeah.
So it's Loverboy and lots of other bands.
Stupid.
Like that, ballads, power ballads.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think you could get a White Zombie without Kiss. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe in Parsons like design school.
They don't wear the
Rob Zombie was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. But I have a feeling like a little bit came from Kiss.
Well, they don't wear their influence on their sleeve, but it's got to be, sprinkled in there somewhere. So
yeah,
let's just say maybe more Alice Cooper.
Yeah, definitely.
Than Kiss.
Yep.
Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, that's better.
Forget I mentioned.
Fuck Kiss.
All right, we want you guys to subscribe, share, and review this podcast. Keep it going, keep it strong, because we're having a great time entertaining you guys with B-Sides and Beers podcast.